Hello, champ. Welcome back. I know it's time for us to work on our first project here in Microsoft Excel, but before we start working on it, I would like to tell us 3 key things we need to note when it comes to visualizing and presenting our data. I've seen so many people, most especially beginners in this field of data analytics, make mistake when it comes to using the right chart to visualize their data. Some even go ahead to use sophisticated charts and graphs that normal or simple chart like column chart, bar chart, line chart would have done justice to. So in this video, I'll be telling us 3 key things we need to note before you go ahead to visualize your data and present it. Stay with me. The first thing you need to note before you pick any visual or any chart at all to represent your data is the kind of data you are working with. The question you should ask is, what type of data am I working with? The type of data you're working with will now determine what kind of visual or what kind of chart you should pick to represent it. For example, if you are dealing with a geospatial data, by geospatial I mean data that has to do with location. For example, you want to check out places, countries or states where more sales or low sales were made. Map will be used to represent that kind of data. A map will be very, very good to represent such kind of information. If you're dealing with categorical data, maybe you want to check out sales made based on categories, then a column chart or a bar chart will do justice to that. If you are dealing with financial data where you want to check out quarterly revenue of a company, then a waterfall chart will want to do that. Even a simple chart like bar chart would want to do justice to that. If you are dealing with hierarchical data I mean data that you want to represent, maybe you want to check out sales of some categories of products and you also want to see the subcategory and the product itself. That kind of information or kind of data can be represented using either a trimmer or a sunburst chart to represent it. So the type of data you're working would determine the kind of visual you should use. So note that data you want to represent. Now check what kind of information, what kind of data is it before you pick that chart. Number 2 thing you should note before picking that visual is what kind of message are you trying to convey? What are you aiming to communicate? Are you trying to communicate relationship? Or you are trying to communicate comparison? Or you are trying to communicate distribution? Or you are trying to communicate composition? You know, if you are trying to communicate relationship, that is, you're trying to check the correlation between multiple variables. Is one dropping as one increasing, or one is decreasing as one is increasing? Then you know, okay, you want to use a scattered plot to represent that data, or you would like to use a bubble chart to represent that data. If you want to show comparison, that is to compare values across time or across various categories, a simple chart like column chart and bar chart and line chart would do justice to that. If you want to check or you want to show composition, I mean, you want to show part of a whole, then you want to look at using a pie chart or a donut chart. Even a bar chart would do justice too. If you want to look at distribution, you want to show the frequency of values across, across a series, then you want to look at even tree map too would do justice, map chart too would do justice, histogram would do justice to that. So it depends on what you want to show, what you want to communicate. That will help you pick the right chart. Note that. The last thing is, who are your final users and what do they want to see? What do they need? Who are your end users? You know, if your end users are executives, they don't need all the story. All they need is just show us how our business is performing. Let us see the business performance. There, just give them little details. They only want to see to know if the business is okay or it's not. Now, in this kind of situation, you will know that using KPI cards to represent your information would help you. Not just KPI cards, but also some simple and basic charts that they can relate with. God help you that your executive body or your stakeholders are data people. Yes, you are safe. But if they are non-data persons, my dear sister, my dear brother, please do well to use KPI cards and simple charts that they can relate with. Okay, next is, what if your end user is a manager? A manager only wants to see summary of the data and actionable insight to help run that business. So you know you would be needing some common charts that he can relate with or she can relate with to understand what you worked on and details to back up that your insight. If your end user is a data analyst like you or an analyst, then just know there's nothing like surface something. You have to go deep. So it means he needs or she needs all the details she can get from that data, from the presentation of your data. They need it. So you want to use some charts, you want to use tables and everything that they need, that they need to understand what you worked on to the smallest level. If your end user is the general public, then we both know what you can use. You can't use sophisticated charts. You have to use simple charts that if Nedu that sells cosmetics in the market sees your work, he knows and understands that there's something going up and there's something coming down without you explaining to him. How you visualize and present your data is dependent on who will be using it. So these are the 3 key things you should note before you pick that visual to represent your data, and also before you can present your data. I hope you've been able to pick 1 or 2 from this video. Now we can build our first project using Microsoft Excel. Thank you.